I've been away for a while because I've visited England. Came back last Wednesday. It's now Monday, the 11th of September. And yeah, I'm just going to sort of talk about what I saw there during my 5 days. So start off with the good news. I think there's evidence. I definitely saw evidence that more people are now thinking about what's happened over the last 2 or 3 years, and they're also keener to talk about it. So I definitely saw less evidence of self-censorship. So talk about two encounters that I had. The first one was with I'm not gonna. It was like basically a customer serving person. I'm not going to give too many details because I don't want to like dox anybody. And this person was a lady who's in early 60s. She didn't look it at all, and she was from Manchester. And how we get into these conversations is I'm with my wife. So my wife doesn't really look English. She's like, thin, a tall blonde thin. So people always often ask like, oh, where are you from? So then that gives me a chance to explain, well, I'm from Rochdale, but I'm currently living in Finland. And then from there, the questions always come of like, oh, how come you went to live in Finland? And then I basically explain why I did move to Finland. And if you're interested in that, there's a couple of videos about that on my channel that you can look about. So don't write in the comments, oh, please, because there's already a video about that. Anyway, so normally after I've explained my story about like how we came to emigrate from Britain in November 2020 to come and live in Finland, that then prompts them. What I noticed that was quite surprised was that I never got anyone trying to shut me down using the phrase conspiracy theorist or even being politely disagreeing or anything like that. What I found instead was that people were quite keen to talk. So in this case, this lady said, "Oh yeah, we were lied to." I just explained the story. We left because I opposed biomedical fascism, and I didn't like the Parliament passing laws without votes or anything like that. And she basically said, "Oh yeah, we were lied to about 91 Divok." The other thing that she mentioned was, as evidence, was the partying of Boris Johnson and Sunak and Keir Starmer, that they were all partying whilst we were, told by the biomedical fascists that we had to stay inside. And she also said something that I noticed too, is that in Manchester it was very, very busy. We arrived on Friday night and the whole city was buzzing. It was packed full of people, pubs, bars, restaurants, all packed out. So I remember saying to my wife, I think that what's happened is people really didn't like being locked up. They'd taken the freedom associated with going to pubs for granted, and they're not going to allow that freedom to be taken away from them anymore. And people are really getting out and enjoying life to the max. To be honest, I was a bit surprised. I was expecting to see financial pressure, meaning that not as many people would be going out drinking and eating, but certainly at the weekend, Manchester was absolutely packed. The second encounter was again with somebody who was customer service, providing advice, tourist advice. This person kind of worked for the council. We went to various places in Lancashire, so I'm not doxing this person. Anyway, she's talked about this friend who was an embalmer, somebody that probably works for a funeral director and sort of like sorts out dead bodies and stuff. And anyway, she told me that they were very quiet in the spring of 2020. That's what she said. Very quiet. That's interesting, isn't it? And she thought it was interesting too. Like her, she said that like the other person that I talked about, she also without any prompting from me, said that they were trying. Actually, she said they were trying to test us to see how much they could get away with, to see how much they could. Yeah, here's another phrase she used: control us. They wanted to see whether they could control us. Um, she actually, I in passing, I basically said that I was a pure blood, or we are pure bloods. Um, I'm not sure if I use that phrase, but I'm going to use it for YouTube to keep it YouTube friendly. And she actually said that she'd been to the Britney Spears and the Boosters, but she regrets going. And if she could have her time again, she wouldn't go to any more. She wouldn't have gone to any of the Britney Spears and the Boosters concerts. So I'd say those were two kind of encounters that I had with when me and my wife were in Lancashire, and it was good. The other thing that I found very encouraging was we went to three sort of different places. Manchester, a place called Walsden, which is out towards Todmorden, more in the countryside. Very, very beautiful place. And we also went to Morecambe as well. And what I would say about that's good, really good, is that those places still looked English. They sounded, people spoke English, let's say, that I could understand. Whereas in October 2022, when we visited England, before we went to Guildford and London, and it didn't really feel like England at all. And many of the people that we encountered spoke a type of English that I just couldn't, I found very, very difficult to understand. I always remember the night we arrived, we were staying quite close to the hotel quite close to the airport, one of the airport hotels, because the flight landed quite late, and we had to cross the dual carriageway next to the Heathrow airport. And it was like a scene from Blade Runner, it was raining, the opening scene from the original Blade Runner, and where Harrison Ford is trying to communicate with these people who speak this weird kind of patois. It was the same. It was exactly the same. There was some sort of thing about you couldn't pay cash on the bus, of course, which was a bit of a shock for me. And this guy was going cat only. I was like, what? Eventually, my wife sussed it out. He was like saying card only. But anyway. So the good news is that if you're a foreigner, if you're a Finn, for example, and you want to go and see England, don't go to the southeast, especially London, because you won't really see anything that's English. What you'll see is a globalist sort of city. You'll see what the plan for the new world order is. Overcrowded poverty. Let's sum it up in those two words. Okay, so talking about then, go to Manchester instead. If you want to see real England, go up north. Anyway, so weird things that I saw when I was there, the first one is something that I smelt, and this was amazing. This was all over Manchester, a really, really strong smell of cannabis, like the genetically modified. It's like stinks. Really, it's not a very pleasant smell at all over Manchester, wherever you go. It was very difficult to escape the smell of this genetically modified cannabis. I even smelt it in Morecambe as well. And what I thought was like, and there was loads of people homeless, of course, as well. So my question is, like, what are the police doing? Has a law been passed in England that means it's not a criminal offence to smoke cannabis on the streets of Britain? I know, if you went to places like Brixton 20 years ago, it probably was, but this is now all over the place, and no one seems to care about it. It just seems to be perfectly normal. I just wonder whether the police are making kickbacks on some of this, whether they're actually involved with the drug gangs, and the police walking the streets are basically told to turn a blind eye to it because their mates further up the police hierarchy are making money from it. Somebody's making serious money from this, because there's so much of the stuff being consumed. So there's going to be a lot of it being sold. Right, the other second encounter was really again quite shocking. So it just the trains weren't working properly. I know that's not shocking, but for me it's a sign and symptom of society kind of in a it's at the beginning of a death spiral. Things aren't working too well over there. The drinking water was disgusting that came out of the taps, like undrinkable basically. It's like heavily chlorinated water that came out of the taps all over. Wherever we went, drinking water was undrinkable because it's so highly chlorinated. Just tasted disgusting. So anyway, we're on the train. We finally do catch a train to go up to Morecambe, and there's a group of Indians, quite well dressed people, like in mid-20s, maybe early 30s, and sat behind me. And the conductor comes on the train to check the tickets, and these people, they don't have the right tickets. And it's first of all, there's a female conductor, and she starts telling them that they've got the wrong ticket, and they could be liable to a fine, and they're going to have to get off at the next station. And these Indians, I don't know whether they were people living in England or but they were definitely genetically, they were from the Indian subcontinent. And their response to this was it was amazing. It was just silence. There's about 4 or 5 of them sat round a table, just silence. No, just didn't respond at all. So this lady keeps on talking, and they just ignore her. So then she goes and gets the guard, and he also like explains the situation, moans, you could be liable to a penalty fare, you know, and basically they do the same thing to him as well. Just respond to him with silence. They actually did say where they were going to. They're going up to the Lake District, and he was towards the end of the conversation. He sort of says, the conductor says, "Oh, well, you need to buy an extra ticket, you know, but you don't have to get off the train. You can buy it on your computer." And I just thought to myself, there is no way that those people are buying. So what it showed to me is just that people are just doing that. There's no respect for law and order, or it's becoming a complete free-for-all. And also I kind of felt too that if that had been a white homeless person trying to catch a free train ride, they'd have lobbed them off. But because it was some well-dressed Indians, they were probably treading very carefully, and because they didn't want to be accused of being, I don't know, racist or something like that. So this is the modern world that we live in, where the rule of law is no longer applying equally to all, and some people are treated better than others on the basis of things that they have no control over, such as their skin colour and nationality. And you know, so I suppose you would say that we're heading towards, you know, a South African type situation in the UK, where different rules apply to different races. The other thing that I noticed was in shops, obviously the police aren't doing anything. So most shops employ people who wear a high-vis jacket. So there's loads and loads of people walking around with high-vis jackets on, or in shops, who were supposed to be doing the security. So that was quite weird. That was something that you just don't get here, this kind of high-vis phenomenon. Loads of like police community support people just like walking around, don't know what they do, probably like tell people off for reading the Bible and stuff like that. But there was lots of that. I found that quite strange. Another thing that I noticed was loads and loads of what I would call fear propaganda. So on the train, just constantly, I know Marty Bucco did a video on this, but just constant nagging, you know, if you see it, and then they had the three word slogan, stop it, see it, saw it, or some stupid nonsense like that. Loads of posters everywhere. We do not tolerate abuse of our staff. And the only abuse that I actually did see was staff abusing customers. And that was definitely the case when we arrived at Manchester Airport, going through security, the collecting your bags and go through passport control, and people just shouting again in high vis people literally shouting at people, go there, do this. It sounded like almost like Nazi guards when trains of Jews arrived at Auschwitz. Links, awful, absolutely awful. On the way back to Finland, again, we were flying out of Manchester, and you have to put your stuff in those plastic trays, and there was plastic circles stuck to the ground. One was a yellow circle, one was a red circle, and they were behind each other. And they were numbered. And this guy was like shouting, red 14 at people as they were approaching the bit where they were doing the security. And basically he was telling you where to stand. And then it was like, then you had to, it was like green 14. You had to move from the red square to the green square. Just completely dehumanizing. And it was, I think it's just a training exercise, just to see how compliant people are. So, of course, I just eyeballed the bloke, and I was turned to talk to my wife and said that these people are just shouting at people. It's just so rude. I just did it so he could hear it. And then I just didn't. I just went to where I wanted to go. I wasn't going to obey this person. And I think, as I say, this is the way that you do it. You fight back against these people through non-compliance, by smiling and by explaining very politely that they're the rude ones, that they're the abusive ones, and it's not nice, it's not necessary. Another thing that I saw that was like shocking, we went to a Morrison's supermarket, quite a big one, and there was loads of empty shelves for fresh fruit and vegetables. The fish counter, I know this may have well been the case even when we were left, but there's like loads of like just rotting fish, that this whole thing just stank, completely stank. And the empty shelves in the fish counter, they were all like, they needed a wash down. It was all dirty and everything. Again, that just might be me living in Finland, and you just get used to higher standards. The other thing that I found very, very strange was dim lighting. They were obviously on some sort of energy saving drive or something inside Morrison's. So it was dark in there. You couldn't really see, what you were buying, because they'd turn the lighting down. The other thing as well, at Manchester Airport, every single one of the travelators had been switched off. So I guess that again is an energy saving thing, or that's what they're saying. And it's just basically what I would say. It's assaulting people's humanity. There's an assault going on people's humanity. The good news, though, is that let's end on a good bit of news, is that I did see an awful lot of like really nice Brits, proper old school Brits doing proper old school things. So, for example, at Morrison's, at the checkouts, there was a lot of people binning off the self-checkouts, and they were going to the manned ones. That was good. And there was an old lady at one of them, and she required a bit of help, quite a lot of help. I think she was a bit confused, maybe had dementia or something. And the service that she got from one of these Morrison's checkout people was so caring. It was absolutely, it really warmed my heart when I saw that. And also in Manchester, the people who worked at the hotel, people in bars, super, super friendly, really nice people. The exact opposite of these high vis, yellow jacketed kind of Nazi morons. So yeah, or people who work in public services, just awful. People who put on these uniforms for money. So yeah, that's. Oh yeah, I did see one November Hotel Sierra. I don't know what word I can use for those people. Just traitor. Yeah, let's use that word, because that's exactly what they are. They sold us all out, so that they could keep on being paid. Did all the TikTok stuff. Said the places where they work were all full when the opposite was the case. And anyway, so yeah, saw one of them as well. looked a bit downhearted. Lots of homeless in Manchester as well, which was again quite shocking. But anyway, that's all I want to say today. So God bless.